You're on a cruise ship, 5,000 people on board. You flush the toilet. Just like that, you stop thinking about it. But that waste doesn't disappear. It goes into one of the most complex sewage systems ever built. One that has to work perfectly in the middle of the ocean, in rough weather for weeks at a time without access to any city infrastructure whatsoever. Here's exactly what happens. The first thing that happens when you flush is vacuum suction. Cruise ship toilets don't use gravity like your toilet at home. They use a vacuum system, the same technology used on airplanes, because gravity-based systems require pipes to slope downward consistently, which is impossible on a ship where toilets exist on every deck, fore and aft, across dozens of floors. A vacuum system can pull waste horizontally, upward, sideways, in any direction, through narrow pipes, regardless of where the toilet is located on the ship. That loud whoosh you hear when you flush, that's not just water, that's a vacuum valve opening, and the pressure difference doing the work in under 2 seconds. The waste travels through a network of vacuum pipes toward a central collection tank deep in the hull of the ship. Everything from every toilet on every deck flows here. But it doesn't stay here for long, because a cruise ship can't just hold raw sewage in a tank for weeks. The smell alone would be catastrophic, so the ship processes it on board continuously, using a system called an Advanced Wastewater Purification Plant, AWP for short. Inside the AWP, the sewage goes through multiple treatment stages. First, solids are separated from liquids in a screening process. Physical filters catch larger particles. Then the liquid goes into biological treatment tanks where bacteria, specifically cultivated, carefully maintained colonies of bacteria, break down organic matter the same way a municipal sewage plant does on land, just compressed into a room the size of a small apartment. The bacteria consume the organic waste, reducing it to byproducts that can be treated further. This stage alone takes several hours, which is why the system runs continuously rather than in batches. After biological treatment, the water goes through ultrafiltration membranes, physical barriers with pores so small that bacteria and viruses cannot pass through. Then UV disinfection, where ultraviolet light destroys any remaining pathogens without adding chemicals to the water. What comes out the other end is water that meets or exceeds the standards set by the International Maritime Organization for ocean discharge. In many cases, cleaner than the water in the ocean it's being released into. But here's what most people don't know. Cruise ships cannot discharge anything within 12 nautical miles of the coast. Inside that boundary, everything is held in tanks. The moment the ship crosses into open ocean, the treated water can be released. The solids that were filtered out, the sludge, are incinerated on board or offloaded at port for land-based disposal. Nothing gets dumped raw, not legally, and not on a modern ship. The entire system runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, managed by engineers who monitor tank levels, bacterial cultures, chemical balances, and discharge logs continuously. One failure in the vacuum system backs up toilets across an entire deck instantly. One disruption to the bacterial cultures in the treatment tanks, and the whole biological process stalls. This is why cruise ships carry backup systems, spare parts for every component, and engineers trained specifically in maritime wastewater management. So the next time you flush on a cruise ship and hear that aggressive vacuum whoosh, you're not just flushing a toilet. You're feeding one end of a miniature sewage treatment plant that's been running non-stop since the ship left port. One that has to work flawlessly in the middle of the ocean with no municipal backup and no room for failure.